Welcome to Doctor's House Call. This is your chance to get in gear with Dr. Gear, a duly trained naturopathic medicine doctor and doctor of chiropractic, board certified in family medicine and minor surgery. Brought to you by Payson Health and Wellness Center at 801 East Highway 260 every Tuesday afternoon from 5 to 6, live on KMOG. You can call in now and speak to the doctor at 474-2427 with any questions, or after the show, call Dr. Gear during regular office hours, 474-7409.
You know, there's a study that was published May the 6th of 2019 in Scientific Reports, and it was about the effects of chiropractic spinal manipulation on central processing of tonic pain. Now, tonic pain, that's a scientific way of making someone hurt and then finding out how it affects the central nervous system utilizing various examination tools. And the pilot study used standardized low-resolution brain electromagnetic tomography called Loretta. They gave it a woman's name.
I don't think it's the name of a woman, though. It has another meaning.
It's an acronym for what I just said, standardized low-resolution brain electromagnetic tomography. And that's where Loretta came in. There's a whole bunch of examiners that did that, and they found that the study showed habituation to pain following the sham intervention, with no habituation occurring following the chiropractic intervention. This suggests that the chiropractic spinal adjustments may alter central processing of pain and unpleasantness. So habituation means the pain continued with the sham treatments, but when the chiropractic adjustments were given with the high velocity, low amplitude, the pain did not persist.
So a sham treatment is the same thing as a placebo. And interestingly, there have been studies where doctors cut a patient open and then sew them back up without doing anything, and patients report that the doctor helped them tremendously, and that's placebo. But placebos only go so far. If you have an effective treatment, it's even better than the placebo or the sham.
Absolutely. I knew of that type of treatment when I went to medical school, because there was an osteopathic orthopedic surgeon who did exactly that, and his patients had fantastic results, much better than the surgeons that went in and cut a bunch of stuff out. He just cut the skin and sewed it back up again.
They probably accused him of malpractice for not taking anything out.
Well, what he did was he gave them an adjustment to the spine while they were under anesthesia.
I see.
So he did what I do, only I don't use the anesthesia. I just surprise the patient and move the bone. And it's amazing how that works. We have thousands of people that have said that. So here's another research article by some people, Havik and Murphy and colleagues, between 2007 and 2013, shown neuroplastic impacts. What does that mean, Dr. Weyrich?
Neuroplasticity is a recent concept that talks about our brain tissue actually being able to remodel itself and regrow and restructure. The word plastic really means deformable, and so our brains can remodel themselves. We used to think that once you had the brain cells that you developed as a child, it was all downhill from there, and your brain cells would die and you never get them back. But people recover from brain injuries by other parts of the brain taking over.
Okay, so now we know what neuroplastic is. There's going to be a lot of big terms here. Listen very, very carefully. The neuroplastic impacts of chiropractic in terms of central and sensoromotor integrations. That's where the feeling and the action of your body come together. Intracortical inhibition. That's the cortex of the brain things going on inside of the cortex that are inhibited, that has to do with the feelings of the pain and the malfunction. Motor processing, that's how the brain makes the motors of the muscles work for the joints. That's the motors of the joints. Primary sensory cortex, that's the feeling that the brain has. The primary motor cortex, that's the part of the brain that makes the muscles act on the joints. The prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain that's out in front of the brain. The basal ganglia and the cerebellum, that's the back part of the brain. So the neuroplastic impacts of chiropractic was fantastic in that, how we influence brain function. The Australian Spinal Research Foundation said that chiropractic care can cause neuroplastic changes in the brain, impacting not only pain and proprioception is knowing where you are in space, but also cerebellar and prefrontal cortex activity. That means how you work. So chiropractic care using high velocity, low amplitude actually makes a change in how the brain functions. It's been documented. That was an article February 1st, 2019 in Chiropractic and Consciousness, the Australian Spinal Research Foundation. So defining consciousness, that's how this works. Every waking thought, experience, or sensation, from the sensations of heat, cold, pain, or tingling, vision, and other sensations, though the feelings of love, fear, and happiness, our ability to think, problem solve, experience a memory, imagine, and interact with our day. It's a big area, one that takes us into some basic science as well as chiropractic specific research when postulating whether a person's consciousness is expressed more fully under chiropractic care. So in 2016, a study was published in the journal Neuroplasticity, partially funded by the Australian Scientific Research Foundation and undertaken by chiropractic research powerhouses Holt, Havik, Murphy, and colleagues. The study revealed that adjusting the spine changes brain function. Not only did the study take a fourth documented look at brain function post-adjustment, it was studied and confirmed by an independent medical researcher. Both facts were big booms for chiropractic. In an interview, Dr. Havik remarked that the study showed a change in brain function by almost 20% on average. This included significant changes in the prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex is where our higher civilized behavior resides.
Yes, it's solid scientific evidence that adjusting the spine changes the way the prefrontal cortex of the brain is processing information. From the arm, it demonstrates we change the way the brain works and shows that spinal function impacts brain function. One of the most interesting things about the changes we observed, this is Dr. Havik talking, was that the prefrontal cortex is responsible for behavior, goal-directed tasks, decision-making, memory, and attention, intelligence, processing of pain, and emotional response to it, autonomic function, motor control, eye movements, and spatial awareness. People are always remarking how much more balanced they feel after they get a series of adjustments. You know, going back many years, I have a daughter who's 50 years old. She's learning disabled. She's been very, very active in the Special Olympics. When she was little, I treated her with spinal adjustments. I even treated her with the manipulative surgery table that I use. We got massive releases in her thoracolumbar junction region. And after we did all of that, her brain started working a little bit better. She was able to use a computer, able to do email, to talk to her friends. Her grammar wasn't the best in the world, and her spelling certainly wasn't the best in the world, but she was able to do it. And it's been this way for a number of her friends as well. I treated their spines, and their brains started working a little bit better. Like this research showed, 20%. That's a big amount, especially when you're dealing with brains that don't work well to begin with. You get up 20% better, wow.
So 20%, to put it in perspective, is like going from an IQ of 80 up to an IQ of 100. And 100 being the average IQ. So that's a significant improvement.
Yeah, so the questions were raised by this study that I just mentioned. The increase in prefrontal cortex activity post-adjustment. Could chiropractic care potentially boost mental clarity, goal setting and attainment, memory, learning, attention, emotional regulation, and more? Could chiropractic lift these elements of consciousness? There's a world of research still to be done, but all of the indications point to a yes. Imagine, in terms of greater levels of consciousness, chiropractic care may be of as much help to a CEO, scientist, or problem solver as it is to an athlete or chronic low back pain sufferer. We need more research to back up our claim, of course, but the indications are there. I know from my experience of almost 60 years, yes, we do change the way the brain works. For clerical workers, for office workers, for thinkers, as well as for athletes. Not to say they're not thinkers. They are. It takes a tremendous amount of mental ability to be a good athlete.
Especially a quarterback.
Absolutely. Or a tennis player, or a golfer. In fact, the one patient that we're working with who's Parkinson's disease, he's an avid golfer. And he couldn't do that before we started working with him. And now he got back to it, and what a change. He's excited. He goes into these contests. What do they call these contests? Tournaments.
Yes, he's going to be playing 18 holes in a tournament tomorrow.
And he's very precise, and he puts that ball right down the center of the fairway. And he really is pleased to do that, and it gives him such an uplift to do that. Just think, before we started working with him, he couldn't even shuffle straight. That's true. And we do this with everybody that comes to us. We can turn them around a whole lot. But you know, it's so important to begin the care as soon as you notice something isn't right. When your hands start to have a little tremor, don't wait until it gets worse. Get to it right now. It's not a watch and wait and let's see what happens situation. Let's get on it right away. You don't wait. I can't emphasize that enough. If you've got lack of circulation to a nerve, don't wait until that nerve dies, because then you can't change it. Get it fixed ahead of time. If you've got a disc that's degenerating, don't wait until it blows out and you have to do a cutting surgery to get it out of the way. If you've got bones that are twisted, don't wait until they grow big spurs and the big spurs start shutting off blood flow and you got to go in and cut out the big spurs. Don't wait. Get on it right away. And if the treatment you're getting isn't working, ask why. Maybe you need to get a little more diagnosis. Maybe you need to find out what's really going on. That's one thing that we do over at Pace and Health and Wellness, is we examine people. Some people think that we do too much examination. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't know what you're going to take care of, how can you possibly take care of it correctly?
Or, put it another way, you can't control what you don't measure. So if you're not measuring progress and measuring where the issues are, how do you know if you're doing the right thing?
Yeah. So if a person has neck pain, they really don't understand it, but it does dull their brain function, the cerebellar function. Spinal manipulation by us often reverses it. And the research shows us something else. Neck pain may change cerebellar motor cortex interaction for the worse. But chiropractic care can reverse that inhibitory effect. In terms of movement, pain, and skill acquisition, we are impacting a person's ability to perceive, process, and respond to the world. We are once again elevating consciousness when we adjust. Theoretically, given the impact on cerebellar function, this could lead to improvements in motor skills, posture, proprioception, that's where you are in space, coordination, motor learning, and other functions of cognition, including executive functions. So it should come as no surprise that the ripple effect of chiropractic care could not only alleviate pain, but elevate the patient's expression, this is a word you like, Dr. Weyrich, expression of and interaction with life also. What does expression mean, Dr. Weyrich, in this context? The patient's expression of and interaction with life.
It just means that he is showing that he is alive in the best possible way.
So somatosensory processing and sensorimotor integration. What do those big words mean?
Somatosensory processing, that is, the body is processing the sensory information coming from all the sensory organs in the body, touch, sight, ears,
Neurons
and so
pathways,
forth.
Right?
Yes, and the somatosensory system is all the neurons and pathways that respond to changes inside the body or on the surface of the body. And they could be thermoreceptors, feeling heat, mechanoreceptors, feeling touch or weight, chemoreceptors, sensing various
Molecules.
chemical things in the environment, nociceptors, that means things that sense pain. All these neurons send messages back and forth to the brain about the state of the body. All these sensations of heat, cold, smell, movement, pain are influenced by the somatosensory system and, in turn, influence the somatosensory system.
So we used to say when we first had computers out, garbage in, garbage out.
Well, that's still true today.
Yeah, the brain can only respond well if it's given good information. So with more nociception, what is nociception?
Feeling unpleasant sensations.
And
pain.
less proprioception.
Feeling your position of yourself in regard to your environment. That means balance, for example.
And then that's with more disafferentiation. That's a special type of fixing of the spine. Then afferation, our reaction time slow and the strength of the signal can become dull. So these are changes to what is perceived, changes to how these sensations are processed in the brain, and changes to how the brain responds, and as a result, how it coordinates a response in the body. All of these changes are changes in consciousness. So the elevated post-adjustment brain function would bring about more fully expressed consciousness. Do you ever wake up, Dr. Weyrich, and feel like you're not quite all there? You're dull. You got to take your time to wait. Every morning you say, I got to have my cup of coffee.
That is true.
And that jolt that you get from that cup of coffee, what does that do to your mitochondria?
Well, it is a stimulant, and part of what is stimulated is energy production and consumption. So it wakes up the mitochondria.
So a lot of people do that. They go out and they get that stimulant in the morning. Coffee or tea or who knows what. And they get a pick-me-up with that. They used to have uppers and downers in the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, they don't like to call them that. They call them various diet pills, phentermine, and that's an upper, basically. Same general category as coffee, but a bit stronger.
So it makes the chemistry of the body work faster. It's so much better to make the body work correctly all of the time with the right diet, getting rid of the blockages to circulation in the spine, exercising your muscles so that you burn up your waste molecules during the day with exercise, and take care of the whole person. You got to have good attitude. People want to read certain things. They want to have the preacher on Sunday tell them certain things. It makes them feel better. Well, if you don't have your spine working properly, you can't maintain that feeling, because you get a quick high and then you drop down. And you don't keep that same upper all the time. With your spine corrected, with your diet corrected, it's astounding how that makes a difference in the way the whole body works. So, when a person starts to feel some things that aren't quite right in their body, some of those simple things are they get shaky hands or tremors in their hands, or they have numbness or pains in their hands and wrists, like a carpal tunnel syndrome, or their hand hurts down in the palm of the hand, or if they're holding a fork and they drop it, or they can't handle their knife and fork like they used to, or they're holding a glass and then they go to talk to somebody and the glass falls out of their hand. All these things have to do with proprioception. And that means your spine might be the problem. You could have other things going on.
Yeah,
your thyroid could be wrong, there's other things.
Just as an example, Dr. Gear mentioned carpal tunnel, and you go to a neurologist complaining about carpal tunnel, and the next thing you know, they want to do an operation on your wrist. But I will tell you that from an internal medicine point of view, certain B vitamin deficiencies and magnesium deficiency makes carpal tunnel symptoms. Dr. Gear will tell you that certain problems in the neck create carpal tunnel symptoms, and neither one of those kinds of problems can be corrected just by doing surgery on the wrist.
No, you take care of the immediate problem with the surgery on the wrist, or you clean out the scar tissue that's there, but you don't develop scar tissue in the first place if you get your neck fixed and if you have the right diet. So, difficulty tying your shoes, coordination of your hands. Your fingers don't do what you tell them it should do. Your shoulder hits the doorway when you're turning around and going through a door. That's proprioception. You have dizziness or vertigo, lightheadedness, all kinds of recurring headaches. People say, what can chiropractic do for a headache?
Oh,
we
tremendous.
fix it all the time.
I said it's a tremendous amount of benefit for chiropractic.
Especially headaches. Now listen to this. A woman in childbearing age gets a headache whenever her period comes around. Why don't we fix the problem, which most of the time is the spine and diet? And you get the diet corrected, you get the spine corrected, that takes care of it 90% of the time. 90% of those women who get headaches during their periods could be fixed if they came to us over at Payson Health and Wellness, and we went through the evaluations and we gave them the proper treatments. Then they wouldn't have to take drugs for the headaches. Isn't that interesting? Maybe they want to take drugs. It gives them, poor me. Gonna have to give me some good feelings because I've got all this pain.
Now that's what you call stinking thinking, I think.
It is. It really is. Visual blurriness or double vision. That can, I've told this before. My first rotation in medical school was at the Chicago Eye Hospital. I stood at the elbow of a ophthalmological surgeon, and he got a whiplash injury to himself, and he started to see double, and he said, my eyes weren't hurt. Why am I seeing double? I had to educate him. Here I was, chiropractic medical school student, educating this board-certified ophthalmological surgeon on why his eyes saw double after a whiplash injury, because his eyes weren't hurt, but his neck was hurt. And we fixed the neck and we fixed the blurred vision. No more double vision.
Because the neck affects the nerves that go from the brain to the eyes.
There's one muscle that controls the movement of the eye. There's half a dozen muscles that do it, but there's one that gets its innervation from the neck nerves, and that's the one that was affected, and that's what was causing him to see double.
What muscle is that?
Oh, Dr. Weyrich, that's a dirty trick. Why don't you go and look up Gray's Anatomy and look at the muscles of the eyeball and then tell me which nerve is it that innervates those? I'm going to tell you it's the first and second and third cervical nerves that affect that muscle, and that muscle is an oblique muscle of the eyeball.
Okay. Well, that tells me what I want to know.
I fooled you, didn't I? All right. You can't immediately remember why you walked into a room. That has something to do with the spine. It has to do with bad diet as well. You don't have enough omega oils, and there's a lot of other things, but the spine has an awful lot to do with that. Difficulty making simple decisions. You walk into the room, should you turn the light on or turn it off? Should you sit down or stand up? You know, those are things that happen to people early on when the brain starts to malfunction. And when you get the spine fixed, you don't have that problem anymore. Isn't that slick? Neuropathy. You've been told you have neuropathy. What does that mean? It means pathology of the nerve. That means the nerve's not working right. So neuropathy means the way your spirit communicates with the world and all of its beings is diseased, and you're not fully alive. Why waste your life for the malfunction that is causing the dash light to light up? Don't wait for your body to break. It's most inconvenient. You know, it never breaks when the time is right. It always happens at the wrong time. So don't wait. Take care of it early. There's a growing body of evidence that high velocity, low amplitude chiropractic spinal adjustments has a significant influence on brain and other central cord changes. It's significant as the evidence is now answering more questions on why has chiropractic had such a profound effect on a myriad of conditions beyond back pain. Technology including, but not limited to functional MRIs, nerve conduction velocities, EEGs, that's electroencephalograph, surface electromyography, which is our myovision, renders demonstrable validation of the effect of chiropractic spinal adjustment has on the changes of the central function. You know, anybody that has any problems and they're not getting it addressed and they're not taking care of their bodies, all you have to do is come and see us. We have a free consultation over at Payson Health and Wellness, and we'll talk to you about it. Bring in your imaging. We'll look at those. Bring in your laboratory results. We'll look at those. We'll see what we can do to help you. We may not be able to cure your problem, but almost always we can provide a certain amount of help. Medicare pays for spinal manipulation. Other insurances pay. You get involved in an automobile accident, that pays for spinal manipulation and all of our chiropractic services. There's one access program that pays. It's Banner University Care. You have to have your primary care doctor refer you for that one.
Is there still a age limit on that?
Well, you'll have to find out by calling the company and finding out. Now, the Payson Health and Wellness is on, where is it at, Dr. Weyrich?
801 East State Highway 260.
And what's that between?
It is just a little bit east of the American Legion, just a little bit west of Misfit Cafe.
It's west of Culver's and west of the 260 Cafe.
Yes.
And east of the Veterans there,
Yes.
American Legion.
Yes.
The phone number is going to be given to you in just a moment, and the location you've just had, you can call and get a free consultation. And then we go from there.
Yes, that would be either a free consultation with Dr. Weyrich on internal medicine or Dr. Gear with structural medicine.
So I want to thank all of you for joining us, and we really, really appreciate you. look for us again next week. We should have another program for you on how the body actually works and what you can do to help yourself.
You've been listening to Doctor's House Call, aired live on KMOG every Tuesday afternoon from 5 until 6 p.m. To call Dr. Gear after the show during his business hours at Payson Health and Wellness Center at 801 East Highway 260, call 474-7409 or go to his website, drbobgear.com. That number again, 474-7409.